Understanding God's everlasting covenant is one of the best ways to grow your relationship with Him, and it is also one of the best ways to take an active role in living a life of obedience to God's will. Hi, Keo Devon here, and welcome to another episode of Week at a Glance, where we dive into a thoughtful summary of this week's Bible study guide. Welcome to another episode of our series on the Covenant. I have a very vague memory of the time when I was bitten by a dog and how my parents took care of me during that time because my fever was extremely high because of the rabies. But one thing I know was that they were beside me. They watched over me. Figuratively, God sat by the bedside of the rabies-infected world. Satan has once again succeeded in spreading the sin virus. So what's God gonna do? The title of this episode is An Everlasting Covenant. Now, here are the important points to remember for today's episode. Our first point is the God of the Covenant. In the last episode, we left off with God giving the rainbow as a sign of His everlasting covenant with every living creature. That never again will He destroy earth with a universal flood. Noah and his family of 8 started repopulating Earth, a new environment without the presence of the bygone evil generation. A brand new start. It started pretty well, but humanity started plunging into the depths of moral darkness once again. For this reason, God chose Abraham that through him and his descendants the world would be blessed. God entered into a covenant with Abraham and appeared to him several times. In those appearances, He used several names to reveal His nature, His character, and also His qualities. He appeared to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, 13, and 15 as Yahweh, translated as Jehovah or the Lord. This personal name of God highlights His faithfulness and grace and His unchangeable relation to His people. In Genesis chapter 17, God appeared to Abraham and introduced Himself with another name. When Abraham was 90 years old, the Yahweh, the Lord, appeared to him and said to him, I am El Shaddai, or translated as Almighty God. Walk before me and be blameless. This name stresses God's authority and His limitless riches. In Genesis 17, verse 6, He promised Abraham something that only the Almighty God could provide. Now, who among you are interested to know how God made His covenant with Abraham? You? Okay, let's go and check it. Our second point is the making of the covenant. From age to age, God has preserved a remnant that became keepers of His revelation. There was actually an unbroken line from Adam, Seth, Enoch, Methuselah, Noah, and then Shem, and down to Abraham. Noah lived 350 years right after the flood, and Shem lived 500 years after the flood. If you do the math, it is likely that Abraham learned about the flood story directly from Noah or maybe directly from Shem. This also means that for 500 years after the flood, the people had the opportunity to be acquainted with the requirements of God and the history of God's dealings with their fathers. God's covenant with Abraham came in 3 stages. It covers a period of 24 years. The first stage was when Abraham was 75 years old. In Genesis chapter 12, God talked with Abraham, commanded him to get out of his country, and made him a promise that he would be a great nation and that through him all the people of the earth would be blessed. The second stage is in Genesis chapter 15. Here, God appeared to Abraham, and through a solemn ritual that was customary during that time for the ratification of a covenant, God bounded Himself in promise to Abraham and his future generation. The third stage was when Abraham was 99 years old. God changed Abram's name to Abraham and made circumcision as the sign of that covenant. The change of name was to increase Abram's faith in God's promises to him. The meaning of the name Abraham underscores God's desire and design to save all peoples. He will be the father of many nations, both the Jews and the Gentiles. And the New Testament makes it abundantly clear that the true descendants of Abraham are those who have faith, those who have the faith of Abraham and who trust in the merits of the promised Messiah. And you know what? That means to say that you and I belong to the true descendants of Abraham. Now, moving forward, there are covenants where the recipients don't need to do anything, like the covenant that God will never destroy the earth and all living creatures with a universal flood. There are also covenants that have conditions, just like God's covenant with Abraham. Now, let's talk about it. Our third and final point is the keeping of the covenant. In Genesis chapter 17 and 19, God's covenant of grace is repeatedly called an everlasting covenant. Actually, it's not just in Genesis chapter 17, but it's scattered throughout the Bible. These covenants are each called an everlasting covenant because they are all expressions of the greater primordial everlasting covenant of love that existed in eternity past within the Trinity and from the Trinity toward all creation. So God established his covenant with Abraham as his channel to bless all the families of the earth. To Abraham and his descendants was entrusted the blueprint of God's plan of salvation. The covenant was packaged with blessings and also with obligations. Its blessings could only be enjoyed if the conditions were met by the recipients. In Genesis chapter 17, and God said to Abraham, "As for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you throughout their generations." And in chapter 18, God says that he trusts Abraham would do it. "For I have known him in order that he may command his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of the Lord, to do righteousness and justice, that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has spoken to him." Abraham's faith response was manifested in obedience. This was shown especially in his willingness to even sacrifice Isaac, his only son, through whom the covenant promise were to be carried out. Abraham understood the plan of salvation. And you know what? Jesus comments on this in John chapter 8. "Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad." Abraham was glad to see that Jesus was the cure. Yes, Jesus is the cure against the deadly virus of sin. This is the everlasting gospel of an everlasting covenant. And that ends our summary for today. So don't forget to check out the discussion questions at the end of this video. Use them in your personal study, discuss them with your group, and let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. In summary, here are the different points that we talked about in today's episode. Point number 1, the God of the covenant. Point number 2, the making of the covenant. And point number 3, the keeping of the covenant. If you find this episode helpful, then share it with a friend. Spread the word and change lives one message at a time. And if you want to watch more summaries like this, then you know what to do. Click right here. This is again Keo Duvan for Weekly Glance. I'll see you in the next video.